Okay, hi everyone. Paul here with Classic Motorworks, and I'm going to be doing a voiceover of this video because there's a lot of background noise. And basically, this is the replacement of the seal on the tail shaft of the transmission and the ups and downs frustrations that came along with it. So anyways, you can see I'm starting out here. In the very beginning, I'm smart and I'm trying to show you the wrench sizes. This is before it got really frustrating. That was a half-inch wrench there. And all I'm doing here, you can see everything is fast forward so that this is not an extremely 4 hour long video. I'm just removing the crossover bracket that holds the tail shaft of the transmission up. And if I remember correctly, there are two on each side. And oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. This is a 67 Cadillac DeVille. So it may be different depending on your vehicle, but this is particularly a 67 Cadillac DeVille with a convertible top. So I believe they're half-inch bolts and nuts. They're not, the nuts are not welded into the frame, so they're separate. And I'm just removing two on each side. You can also see that I have the transmission is supported right now by that jack in the middle, and you can see I've got a 9/16 socket on that, and that is to remove some of the bolts that are right in the middle of that crossover piece that I'm removing right now. So we got the uh, 4 half-inch bolts, two on each side, but then the transmission itself is tied into that piece with 9/16 bolts in the middle. So back to the transmission is being supported right now by that jack. Notice that I put a piece of plywood there. I really do not like raising and lowering transmissions, especially when they're tied to the engine, everything like that. I don't like doing it but I have to. So you can see I'm supporting that with a block of wood so we don't crush the pan. The support piece just came out, and now that the support piece came out, we have a little bit of training fluid that is leaking out because the transmission is tilted down, and with the drive shaft out, that happens. The bolts, I believe, are 9/16. I just loosened all the way around, and the tail shaft comes right off. I'm trying to be careful not to hit the actual splines of the transmission and the shaft itself as I take off that tail shaft seal. All right, so we are now on the other side of the garage, and I'm just checking out what is going on here. You can see that the sleeve on the inside is super worn. It's been digging in there, and right there on the right, you can actually see where I think someone had put it in before, and it was hit. So one thing that's interesting about this is where all the frustration, uh, actually, this isn't the frustrating part, but it was coming. There are actually, in addition to the uh, seal that I guess I already pulled out. I thought I had a video of that pulling that out, but I guess I did not show that. You basically pull that seal out with a seal puller. You just prise it up under there. But anyways, back to this. So there are two sleeves in there, and usually you only see one sleeve. So my guess is that when this was done before by someone, because it definitely has been done before, um, it's the shaft is really uh, nicked up and it's just not in very good shape. There's a second sleeve in there, and it looks like they had just uh, either put a uh, second one down there, or they pushed it down there and left it. It's hard to tell exactly what was going on. So now that everything's taken out, we're just cleaning this up with a little bit of brake clean, so I can have good clean surface to work with. This is the old um, gasket that bolts up to the back of the transmission, old paper gasket. I looked everywhere and was not able to find paper gaskets for this. It's very odd. So I ended up using the gasket maker. And this is me attempting to figure out how to, let's see, am I getting things out still? I believe yes. So running around the garage looking for parts. And what size is that? It's 1 1/4 or 32 mil socket is kind of the go-to socket, it seems, for this particular size. I ended up using a number of different things. What I did right there, I had an extension for that socket just to see how deep it was, and I wanted to make sure that the socket, um, that the transmission shaft wasn't tapered. So as that socket goes all the way through, it was going to get stuck and break that transmission shaft. Now here you can see I've taken a little bit of sandpaper and kind of smoothed up the edges because, as mentioned before, this has been worked on a lot and it has really, the edges have really been messed up badly. So the first time through was not successful. It was very, very frustrating. And you can already see right here, you see that um, new seal is starting to go in crooked wise. So this is where I realized it was going to happen. The center inner diameter of the seal actually is what was not good. The outer was fine, but the inner just was in a weird shape. So now we're at round two of putting in seal number two, trying to be more careful. And what I realized on this particular tail shaft was this has been worked on by people in the past, and it has been, the aluminum has just been gnarled up big time. There's different gashes and just, it was bad. So I did end up sanding it. You can see here, I've tried heating it up, and just between all the different people that have worked on it before being so messed up, it was difficult to say the least. So we tried this. It didn't really do a whole lot for me. We tried different aluminum pieces I had laying around, and I believe this is where I realized we might have success. And yes, finally, I got it to fit in there, and the seal went in correctly. It was not messed up. It was a beautiful, wonderful moment. Yes, exciting moments right there. Okay, so after we got that in, we're now heading back over to the car itself, and we're putting the bolts back in that held the shaft onto the transmission. One thing I forgot to show in this is because I could not find the paper gasket, I ended up using, I believe it was gray, um, a gasket maker that is specifically transmission gasket maker. And so far, we haven't had any leaks. It's been really, really good. So that is on there, and I am trying to get this put on quickly enough so that the gasket maker stuff doesn't set up, which is always fun because you got a time crunch. This it's not like you only have a minute, but there are a lot of bolts, and I like to get the bolts torqued correctly before that sets up completely. Otherwise, if it sets up and you're trying to torque down the bolts, it just doesn't work right. So, anyways, you see here I'm adjusting the transmission, lowering it, trying to get up in there to get the bolts started. And then I do believe after we get everything started, we're going to just zip them a little bit, but not to the point where it's actually putting any major torque on the threads. And that was me checking to see with that new sleeve that's now in the transmission tail shaft. It is tighter, which is nice. That's kind of like what we're going for. And we're checking to find the correct size, which, is like the most difficult thing is finding your sockets and everything. So you can see here, as mentioned, I'm zipping them on just a little bit. but not to where there's actually any real torque on the bolts or the pieces being attached. This is just to get things in there a little bit quicker because, like I said, I'm trying to do this quickly before everything sets up. And then right after that, we get the torque wrench out and trying to, I believe we do this in a cross pattern, like pretty much everything else out there in the world. Okay, so here we go. We've got the torque wrench set, and you can see ooh, look how fast. Yes. Now, we go through, and I actually do it one time, 5 pounds below, and then I put it back to the correct um, torque, and I go over it again because I just want to make sure that everything's right. So I always do 5 pounds less and then 5 pounds after that. So this is the fun part. We've got through the frustrating part of that time thing of getting the tail shaft on before the stuff sets up, and now we're having to raise, lower the transmission to get the cross member shaft put back in. Okay, and then you can see now I'm putting those 4 bolts, 2 on each side. And these again are the bolts that it's a bolt and a nut on the top side. It's not actually welded in, but that's okay. And I believe they were 1/2 inch, if I remember correctly. Okay, so after we get those put in, we're going to be focusing on the bolts that are in the middle of the tail shaft, connecting it to the crossover piece that I'm putting in right now. And that's what I'm checking out. So I got the flashlight, trying to get those started. After we get them started, we can do a little zip zip. Of course, I ended up getting the bolt stuck, so the pliers came out. We got them all put back in now. There's 2 on the other side. They're smaller ones. The one in the center is holding the uh, tail shaft itself, and then the plate is attached to the cross member, which is all done. Here are final pictures of the seal. The picture itself actually seems like it's the seal is not centered, but that was just because of the angle of the picture. All right, everyone. I hope that was helpful to some of you. And if you have any questions, always shoot me a line at www.classicmotorworksflorida.com. Till next time.